So, as we prepare to start tonight, and as you all come in the room, we're going to just ask you all a couple of questions because we want to highlight some stuff from last night.
Yes.
How many of you all, if you were able to complete at least portion, or well, number one, if you got your received homework through an email from us, from our community pages, if you received our worksheet for your homework, drop me an emoji in the chat real quick. Let me know that you were able to see and you received last night's homework. Okay,
Yeah.
you might have got it today, or if you got it this morning, or even this afternoon. I just want to know that you got it. So drop that in there for me. After you let me know that, here's what I also want you to know. If you are not receiving emails from us, but you signed up to receive emails from us, number one, check your spam.
Yeah.
All right, check your spam. If for any reason you haven't signed up yet and you're like, you know what, I want to be receiving emails, we just dropped in the chat the link that you follow to sign up for our email list. So we don't want you to miss anything that we're doing, anything that we're saying, even our recaps and the follow-up videos. We want to make sure that you're able to see and receive all that stuff. Okay, now from the homework last night, here's the question I want to ask. For you all, what was the most challenging part of last night's work? Because we had to do some heart mapping. We had to do a piece where you all had to trace your triggers. I want to know, like, from you all, what was some of the more challenging parts or aspects of last night's homework? What made you go, Lord, what in the world have I got into? Some of you all may have did it at a
Not
desk.
on a Monday night.
I mean, like, what were we doing on a Monday, right? How did we get all the way here on a Monday? So I want to, as you drop in the chat what some of those spots were for you, I just want to give you all a couple of just real quick recaps from last night's heart work. And then we're going to jump right into tonight. Because tonight we're dealing with your mind. But just a couple of recaps from last night. Number one, you can be single and whole, and you can be married and what? Broken. It's very possible that singleness and brokenness are not synonymous. Neither are marriage and wholeness. So it's very possible that you can be single, be very whole. You can be married and be very broken, or you can just find the path to wholeness completely, right? Find your path to wholeness. Number two, your boundaries are not walls. They're gates for protection and peace. And I cannot say this enough. The part that we want to see revolutionized in your relationships is the peace of God. If that is a platonic friendship, if that is somebody that you're dating, if that's somebody you're thinking about married, men, if that's somebody that you're courting, married couples, if that's the person you lay next to every night, you want the peace of God to permeate every part of your relationship. Number three, healing is not a season, it's a lifestyle. Type that in the chat.
That one was so good to me.
This is something that I do every day. All right, this is something that I do every single day. I want to be sure that you both know, realize, recognize, and understand that healing is a journey. And even like following along in the chat tonight, I know that thinking on and processing through the trauma is painful, but as you process it, and really we process it through together, this is literally what we're doing right now in the safety of community, you're going to find the peace of God on the other side of that. So tonight, let's just go ahead and jump into it. Tonight, we are dealing with renewal of the mind and changing the way that you choose.
Listen, say changing the way that you choose. Our focus will be thought patterns, internal belief systems, and decision making, okay? Let me start with this scripture, and then y'all know I'm going to jump in because I just do what I do right. We come out the gate swinging. We ain't got nothing but an hour with y'all. So y'all say y'all come in hard. Auntie has to do it this way, okay? Let Romans 12:2, New Living Translation, says, let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Say it again. Romans 12:2, New Living Translation, let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Listen, somebody just lay hands right here and say, Lord, my mind, come on, help my mind right here. Come on, right here while I'm talking, Lord, help my mind. I can name, I'm just going to condense it down to one. There's so many times that I thought my heart was healed. Because we talked about the heart yesterday. Oh, but transforming that mind. Baby, that mind had a mind of its own. And when you're dealing with thought patterns and internal beliefs, and our mind talk us out of things, right? I talked about, even how I chose a mate, how I chose not my husband, but how I chose before marriage. Yep. I really struggled with that because of my thought process, right? Because I thought I was orphaned. I didn't have my mother and my father. I came from two people who chose alcohol and drugs. And so my thought patterns was I began to pick from that. I began to say, this is what you deserve. You won't receive anything better than this in friendship, as well as romantic relationships, because of my internal beliefs and my thought process that came through my mind. Now, do I have any people in the chat on here? Okay, that mind, right? Somebody said, baby, that mind. And so I began to pick young men based on what I thought about myself. So I ended up in a relationship where I had a daughter. I accepted cheating because I said, well, listen, this is the best you're going to get. You got somebody. Somebody is better than nobody. I'm not talking about hypothetically. I'm talking about my life. I began to pick this way because of what I thought about myself. Has anybody said, oh, man, I have this deficiency or I did. Oh, here's another one. I didn't finish college at first. So I shouldn't even try to look for somebody that's all educated, right? That automatically, my mind said, that automatically discounts you. That automatically discredits you. So this is right here. This is a type of man. You can't go above this line. And if anybody else let their mind tell them these things, right? And so we can't go into this Romans 12 and 2 because we think low of ourselves. And when we allow our voice and our mind to speak louder to us than the voice of God, then we got a problem.
And I think that at the entry point, I'm so glad you shared that way. I think at the entry point of this, here's what I want you all to know and understand. You can have a healed heart with an untrained or untransformed mind, and you're still going to yield the same cycles. Say it again. You can have a moment where your heart heals, and you can have a moment where in the midst of your heart healing, your mind doesn't change. If there's not a change of mind, there's not going to be a change of results. All right, so I know last night we put a lot of emphasis on the heart healing and your heart becoming well. But what I really want you to grasp tonight is, yes, now my heart is healed, but I've got to untrain some of the ways that I've thought about myself, some of the ways I've thought about my actions and activities, and I've got to change my mind so that ultimately I can see the results that God has planned and God desires for my life. Because here, I want you to type it in the chat, put it in your notes. Hear me as I say this. You don't attract what you desire. You attract what you think. Okay? I cannot say it enough. Attraction and what gravitates into your life has less to do with what you wish for, more to do what you think about. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he, right? So you'll always find yourself thinking at levels, and at the level of your thought and your belief, really, we can even call this the level of your faith will also be the level of your attraction. I want you in every aspect of your life to no longer attract what you do not want, to think higher of yourself, to think higher of your call, purpose, destiny, and what God sends into your life, so that you will find the right things coming at the right moment and at the right season, okay? So I want your life to see all of God's right things. Go ahead and put it in the chat, the right things. Like, I don't want the wrong things coming in my life. I don't want the wrong things coming in my way. I want to see God's best, and I want the right things to be attracted to me and for me. So all this starts with killing the loops. Put in the chat, LOOPS, mental loops. All right, there are mind traps that we both inherit, we start to believe, and we start to operate in that have everything to do with the toxic cycles that we have picked up over time.
Yeah.
These mental loops stop us from pursuing God in His fullness, and it stops us from believing in totality everything that God has destined, designed, and created us for. So you stay in loops when your heart heals, but your mind doesn't renew. What God is trying to get you to do is renew your mind. And renewing your mind is not something you do annually. It's not something you do when you get baptized or when you get saved. Every day, there is a necessity for heaven to update the way that you think about you, the way that you think about what you're called to, the way that you think about the relationships that are in your life. Some of us, hear me as I say this, we keep our day ones not necessarily because our day ones are still having day 1,000 impact, but we keep those that have been close partly out of loyalty, but sometimes out of a lack of renewing the way that we think about what it is and where it is God has called and created us for. So we find ourselves in mental mind traps, doing mental gymnastics over what it is that we've been called for and what it is we've been called to. And until we break the cycle, we will continue to produce and reproduce the same results. You gotta kill the loop. So just a couple of common mind traps. Let's talk about
Let's just say this. If your mind isn't renewed, your relationship will be rooted in dysfunction disguised as desire. Let me read that again. If your mind isn't renewed, your relationship will be rooted in dysfunction disguised as desire. Okay, I know that was a lot. Somebody said we need a little bit of volume. Can y'all hear us? Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? All right. So let's just talk about a few mind loops, right? We talking about just going in cycles now, right? It's different people, but the same thing. That is a loop. The loops that sabotage love, right? We just on this hamster wheel, and we get off, and then we get back on right in another part of the wheel. Same cycle, different face, different person. Okay. So some common mind traps: fantasy thinking, romanticizing potential instead of accepting reality. Now, how many of you all have let y'all mind? Now, you see the red flags, but you said it's so much potential there. But the reality is marching like I went to Alabama A&M, so I'll say the maroon and white band with the flags, all the flags is waving, and the band is saying, and you're still saying, but I see potential. So your mind say, I'm gonna stay in this because I didn't invested too much time. Oh, I'm gonna come down your street because I did that. I stayed in something. I said, shoot, I done gave that joker 5 good young years of my life. I'm talking about young knees, okay? Young years. And you're saying, I see the potential there. But the reality is saying, this joker ain't gonna stay faithful to you, Fanika. So even as much as you saying, I see the potential of what we could be, this is what it is. And what they say, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. So why do we stay in these cycles, in these loops, when people have showed us? So then, that's when now we have to come and accept some accountability. Oh, that's a word we don't like to say. That's a dirty word. We have to come and accept accountability, saying, man, I'm so nice. I give my all. I give it all in a relationship. Who said that? I'm talking about even in platonic relationships. But we've already seen the flags. We trying to go with the potential. Fear-based thinking. Believing love equals pain, so you sabotage intimacy. Who said that love had to be so painful? And we wear it like a badge of honor. He ain't loving me unless She ain't loving me unless she treat me this way. Baby, that ain't love. And so we're currently staying in the wheel. I'm gonna let you talk about the last two.
So outside of dating, matter of fact, several of you all have said it, you've dated for potential, you've dated out of the idea of fantasy, out of fear. But I think another common one that we need to give a little bit of credit and credence to is performance-based thinking. It's the place where we try to earn love from people when love is something that should be given, received, yielded freely. So if I'm having to perform to prove to you that I love you or that I'm worthy of your love, it's a mental loop where I always find myself trying to one up what I did before to prove to you how much I actually do love you, right? So we only will receive love based on how well we think we perform, rather than believing just as we are, just as you are, you're worthy of being loved without performing at all. And then finally, there's a loop that we've given you 4. It's called the scarcity thinking. And scarcity thinking simply means I will settle for what I see because nothing better may come along. Now, I believe all of us at one time or another have dated from a scarcity mindset. And that simply means you settle for something that's available and convenient rather than finding yourself in the middle of the will of God, doing what it is that God has called and created you to do, and not allowing what you see around you to dictate what it is you actually end up walking into. So all of this, again, it points back to Romans 12:2. It points back to the transformative thinking. Transformation doesn't come from effort. It means that you don't work yourself into a place of transformation. It comes through renewing your mind. It's the space where every day you're renewing your mind. You're renewing the way that you think. You're renewing the way that you move. You're renewing the way that you operate with yourself and the way that you operate with people. It is mind renewal. It's the space in you where you believe with everything in you that God can break the loops in your mind, the way that you have thought about you, the way you've thought about relationships. For some of you, the way that you're even thinking about your marriage. You can be married and still caught in a loop. You can be caught in a loop of what you've seen in marriage. So you have role expectations that the wife does this, husband does this, and when the performance doesn't transpire the way that the loop tells you that it should, it makes you think that there's even either a deficiency in your partner or there's some level of deficiency in you, rather than just creating a new idea and a new norm out of what God has given you from a relational perspective. The key is not to fall into the mind traps. Part of that, the greater part of that, is renewing your mind on a daily basis. So real quick, I want to know from you, what is at least one relational belief that you've never questioned, but you may think is true? So because you ain't questioned it, you've just assumed that this has got to be true. For one, let me just give you a couple. If they really love me, they'll fight for me.
Woo! Hey!
Have you ever had just the thought of the idea, like if they love me like they say they do, they're going to run me, they're going to chase me down.
Yeah.
Like the person running out the house and, getting in the car and driving down the street.
And
like,
that's a loop because
is.
we're constantly measuring, right? We're saying, I'm going to use this as a measuring rod. I'm going to behave this way to see if they're going to come after me.
Yep.
I've been guilty of that.
Yep.
I'm telling you, I've been guilty of that. In my younger years, not when my husband praised the name of the Lord, but I have been guilty of that in my younger years. And really what it was, I was so used to people leaving. And so I put all of these obstacles in just to see. Now, if he jumped through this, then he fighting for me. He really want to be with me. Y'all, that is dysfunction.
Yep. And here's another one. I have to lower my standard or I'll be alone. Like, how many of you all have ever been in the space where you're like, you know what? Maybe my standard is too high. So let me bring it down to baseline level and start accepting what I wouldn't generally accept all because I just don't want to be alone,
Yep.
right? The place of lowering standard. Or finally, how many of y'all have ever said, I just attract broken people, right? The idea that only people that want me are those that I've got to play Mr. or Mrs. Fix-em with.
Yeah.
Like you have a Superman or Superwoman syndrome, and you find yourself always saving the damsel or the dame in distress, and you feel like the only thing your life attracts is broken people.
And usually what happens with that is with people who have had broken childhoods or so what you say is when somebody come in my presence, and this we do this even in friendships, right? Somebody come in my presence, I never want them to feel like they are by themselves or somebody is not in their corner. Somebody is not with them. So even though they're broken, and listen, it's killing you trying to keep them together, right? You trying to keep them together and you can barely keep yourself together, and you're saying, really, what is this? What is this that attracting this, right? It's the pattern of thinking with your mind. I don't want them to feel the way that I felt once in my life. So I'm going to stay attached to them because I'm fixing them.
Yep. So the first thing I want you all to do tonight, first part of homework, I want you to discover and define what is one of your mental loops. What is one of the things that you've said, a way that you've responded that is at its core, hear me as I say this, is not a deficiency. At its core is dysfunctional, but what God wants to do is bring it to the surface so that you know how to address it. Like, here's just a beautiful case in point. And this is like a real life one that's happening, right? Like we're walking through it right now with our girls. Like the space where you don't have to over apologize for what it is that God is doing in you and through you. Like you don't have to apologize for anything that's happening in your life by way of the hand of the grace of God. You have to be okay when people don't understand it, people don't receive it, people don't grasp or gravitate to it. You got to be okay with how God is doing it in you. And you've got to break the mental loop of feeling like you've got to apologize for relationships God blesses you with, for doors that God opens for you. You don't ever have to apologize. This has to do with every part of revolutionizing the way that you see relationships in and through your life. So I want you to process through your mind traps, the things that have tried to captivate you and keep you from becoming everything God has called you to be or do. Because the next part of this we're going to attack tonight has to do with the soul ties of the mind. And it has to do when your memories become chains.
Woo, say that one more time.
When your memories become chains. How do you break mental soul ties? Because here's the truth.
I got to sit back. Let me sit back.
Here's the truth. Now, often when we hear about soul ties, they are only explained in sexual definition.
Absolutely.
So we have soul ties with people because you slept with somebody before marriage, or however, or even emotional soul ties with people that you've been in elongated relationships or even friendships with. The truth is, soul ties are also mental. It's the place where a way of thinking has changed itself around the way that you think and has created an alternate truth outside of what the truth of God's word is. So here's how that looks. Here's how you can fully see that. I'm gonna give you all a couple of examples. I'm past to Fanika. Like for instance, you grew up in a church where the standard for holiness was long skirts, right?
And definitely not this color lipstick that I'm rocking tonight, right? Like I was literally upstairs saying, is this too much? Because I'm 45 and just not getting into color because of some of those same things.
Yep, absolutely. So all those are mental soul ties.
So listen, you can be physically out of a relationship, but mentally still bound by it. All right. Yep. Now, if I just came down your street, I just want you to put the thing ouch. Okay, I just want you to say ouch. You can be physically out of a relationship, but mentally still bound. Meaning you are out of the relationship, but there's certain things because they said this about you.
Yep.
You had gained some weight. Nobody ever gonna want you. Nobody ever gonna love you. You ain't have this. Ain't nobody want you. You're out of that relationship now.
Yep.
You're out of it.
Yep.
But your mind, you're still picking and you're still deciding off of and that low level of thinking and just not having the standard, right? Because you out, but you ain't out. You out, but your mind is still hearing and rehearsing what it is that they, I see the ouches in the comments, rehearsing what it is they had to say to you. Soul ties aren't just emotional, as my husband said. They are mental contracts, okay? These are mental contracts. A soul tie can be a mental contract. You have tied yourself. You have married yourself with what it is that they have said about you. Belief systems and imaginations that exalt themselves above God's truth. Let's go to a key scripture. 2 Corinthians 10:5. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God. I'm going to give you another one. Isaiah 26:3. You would keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, whose thoughts are fixed on you. Now, I'm going to give just one example of a mental soul tie, and then I'm gonna let my husband, because y'all see I'm getting stirred up now. I done got a little louder. I'm sitting up. You still comparing every new person to your ex. All right, I'm going to be quiet on it.
So anytime your mind is stuck in a mental soul tie, there are places where, one, the peace of God cannot and does not properly infiltrate your heart and your mind, where you find yourself thinking more about what's trying to bind you than you think about the way God is trying to free you. So what you end up doing is looking at your life, looking at God's perspective about you based upon the loop or upon the soul tie that's been created in your mind. I have to say this again. It's all just, you can put it in the chat. It's in your mind. So what the power and the presence of God wants to do is cast down every thought and every imagination that tries to rise up against the knowledge of Christ in your life. Another just example of a mental soul tie is still living by the expectations of a person who's no longer in your life. Like, how many of y'all have ever held yourself hostage over what grandmama thought about you? And grandma is dead, gone, in the grave. She in glory. She's somewhere in between, glory or Gehenna, somewhere in between, right? But you're still holding yourself to the standard of what they thought or how they felt or what they said about you. Or better yet, you had a friend or a set of friends that had opinions and or ideas about you. And now, though they're no longer physically present, they are still very much mentally present because your mind has not cut the tape. What you've got to do is, it's literally, I'm about to give you an illustration of it. You're going to cut the tape. It is time for you to cut the tape in every aspect of your life that has tried to stop or is trying to distract the way that you think about you. Now, how many of y'all have ever seen somebody open a store for the first time, right? They got a big red ribbon, right? They've got a big red ribbon. We've got green tape tonight, right? They've got a big red ribbon, and on the other side of that ribbon, once the ribbon is cut, there's access to a space that other people have not ventured into yet. Yeah. Here's what I believe. If you can cut some of the mental soul ties, the way that you think about you, the way that you thought other people thought about you, the way that you know other people think about you. When you can cut the tape, what happens is you give yourself access to a new way of thinking that actually will begin to attract what it is you've been praying for. All right, we're going to hold it up. So, yep. Matter of fact, I'm going to hold it. Here you go. I want you to take the tape. Don't cut it yet. Because often what happens is this. We know that we possess the power to get from one side to the other. But the reason why we don't cut the tape quicker is because we've become so familiar with what other people's ideas are about us that we've made a reality out of someone else's opinion.
Yeah.
Like we have taken on the idea that if they think that about me, that must be who I really am. If that's what they feel about me, they must, maybe they see something I don't. And the truth is, I can't let someone else's feelings become my reality.
And I heard, look, somebody even said the silence. Talk about the
Yes,
silence.
so-
So when people are silent and you're asking questions, right? And you're saying, hey, right, you're trying to get some feedback. And the silence is just as loud as
Absolutely.
some of the negative things that they've said.
Absolutely. And tonight is your night to simply cut the tape. Now,
Look at that.
Here's issue number one. Here's issue number one. Here it is. Fanika, in cutting the tape, tried to cut the tape all at one time. Like she tried to just sever it all in one moment. She went and tried to cut from top to bottom in one smooth swoop. And the truth is,
Ooh, that cut it.
in some aspects or some respects, sometimes cutting the tape, it don't happen overnight. But inch by inch, as I make my way from where I was to where I'm going, and I give God permission to make it happen and transpire in my life, inch by inch, day by day. Here's what I'm saying to you. I'm not asking your life to turn different tonight. I'm not asking you to undo 10 and 15 years of mental awareness or a space where you lack your ability to see from God's perspective. What I'm asking you to do tonight is start the process of cutting the tape. Like put it in your mind that whatever I've got to let go of, I've got to start letting go of it now. I'm not waiting another year. I'm not waiting to 2026. I'm not even waiting to the fall. I'm going to start doing it now. So next part of your homework, I want you to write down at least one thing you need to cut the tape on. At least one thing that needs to be severed, destroyed, taken out of your life so that you can fully become everything that God called and created you to be. Now, if this is challenging you in any shape, form, or fashion, if tonight you're even starting to think about, man, what is it that I've been thinking about me that I may need to start thinking about differently? Here's what I want you to do. I don't want you to think that you're in the wrong room because now you're having to assess, man, maybe I have been thinking about this wrong. Or maybe because of the way my family has always grown or has always been, maybe I do need to kind of address some of these things in my mind. Some of this ain't in my heart. It's just in the way that I think. It's the way I think about money. It's the way I think about relationships. It's the way I think about people that I'm connected to and surrounded by. It's the way that I think about everything that God is doing in me and through me. I want you, if you're in the right room and we're at least barking up the right tree, as we would say in the country, I just want you to drop something in the comments real quick, like it's me. I want to know, like tonight, that you're ready to separate, cut the tape.
Oh, I love
and
that.
separate from the way that you were thinking to step into the way that God's about to call you to think. Because now we're about to go into the third segment. This is going to be the lengthier segment tonight. So we were moving to get to the third part. Like the last part is the best part. It's the part where most of your homework is going to come from tonight. The last part of this is very simple. It's rewriting the blueprint. It's the place where you take the courage to get God's clarity, kingdom clarity on everything you've been called and created to do. Here is my assessment for you coming out of tonight. Before you leave tonight, you're not stepping into tomorrow unclear. I believe if you're watching this live right now, if you're watching this on a replay, days, months, even years from now, that God is about to give you a brand new space of kingdom clarity. He's about to show you in a way that only He can what the clarity from heaven actually looks like and what it looks like to make decisions with a clear mind, to be transformed from this world, to be transformed by the renewing of your mind so you can prove what is that good and that acceptable and that perfect will of God.
And listen, the teaching concept from this is if your mind is undisciplined, I'm going to say it again. If your mind is undisciplined, your standards will always be negotiable. I'm going to slow walk that one again. If your mind is undisciplined, your standards will always be negotiable. Come on, I feel
so. I was just
jump
about to
on
tag into it. Like,
yeah.
if there's a space in your life where standards don't really matter, where in the way that you think, the way that you move, the way that you operate, the way that you live, that the standard can always go lower and that you can change your standard based on how you feel, it's because there's no clear standard set. What God is trying to do is discipline your mind so your standard can be heaven's standard for your life. And so that as you make decisions, you're not making decisions from an undisciplined or an untrained place. Like in everything that you do, there is not room for negotiation on heaven's standard. And I want to make this clear. God's standards and your standards aren't always the same things. Because some things you have called standards, and we're going to talk about it in a moment, some things that you have called standards are simply preferences. There's a difference. Just because you prefer it doesn't mean it's a standard. What God is trying to do is bring alignment with what He has created for your life relationally, and allowing you to not negotiate down what it is He's called and created to be your baseline for your existence.
Listen, God has a relational blueprint, and it requires you to renew how you evaluate compatibility, alignment, and timing. Now, this one I want to talk about right here because this is where I was. So I want to talk about a few biblical blueprints for choosing. Okay, we're talking about the way we're choosing, and I want you to keep the camera in the center, Katie, because when I say this here about my wonderful husband, I just want to paint a picture. The first one is purpose over preference. Amos 3:3. Can two walk together unless they agree? Purpose over preference. A lot of things that we are looking at, it's just preference, right? I had to get to this place where I had to start telling my mind, I need a purpose partner, right? We talking about, because what usually what happens when we talking about preference, we want to build a model, right? We want the hair to be this way. We want them to look this tall. They got to be this tall. They got to have muscles like this. If it's a woman, they got to be stacked like this. They got to have this. His waist got to be right. And all of that stuff means nothing, especially honey, after kids and all these things like this come into place. What happens when it comes to purpose? 10 years down the road, can them biceps stand in what I need when we are in a place and we need prayer? My husband and I lost a baby. I went into full labor and lost a baby. I don't need muscles in that moment. I need a purpose partner, somebody that is going to pray and somebody that's going to be with me through that. I used to say, oh, he's too small. Everybody said, oh my God, that's your best friend? Y'all never thought about dating? No, he's small. Look how he dressed. He can't dress. His pants is flood. All of these things is preference. That's stuff you can change. And I almost miss my purpose partner getting tied up in dumb stuff that you can change. But when the rubber meets the road, I need the person who is designed by God to be with me for whatever we'll face in life. That is when you know I have a purpose partner. Because let me tell you something, ladies. Them muscles don't mean nothing when I need somebody to get in the trenches with me when it pertains to our purpose.
And I think the beautiful part of this is pretty simple. That when we have a list of what it is we desire out of a mate, what we desire out of a relationship, when we get to a place where we are making our decisions about what it is that we're going to walk within our future. We have lists. There's nothing wrong with you having attractions and things that you desire.
Absolutely.
But the truth is, if they check every box of your preference, but their life doesn't align with your purpose, and you marry for your preferences, and then 2 years in, you're frustrated because your purpose is suffering at the hands of your preferences. That's the place where you have to ask yourself, it's the Amos 3:3 blessing.
Yeah.
How can two walk together unless they agree? God is trying to bring agreement to every part of your life. So right now, this first part, we're talking to the singles. I'm talking to every person that is waiting for the one that God is sending.
Their purpose partner.
That is dating or think that you're dating, who it is that God has designed for you. You have to ask yourself, what boxes are they really checking? Can they still walk with me 5 years from now? Can they still help me become everything that God's calling me to be in the next 10 years? When my shape is not Coke bodily, will they still love me? When my beard turns gray, will they still enjoy me? It is purpose over preference. This is God's blueprint. Point number 2 of this, it's very simple. It's peace over pressure. Okay, this is for, again, singles. This is for married people. This is for everybody. If what you're in is giving you more pressure than it is peace, let me talk to the singles first. If the person that you're dating, the person that you're courting, the guy that you are giving an opportunity now, if they are putting more pressure on your life than they're providing peace, I promise you, they are not the one. Now, when I say pressure, here's what I mean. It's not that they are lacking the ability to call you up to a different or a higher standard. No, when I say pressure, I mean the parts or the places where they are more on your nerves than they are in your heart, right? Where they are pressuring parts of you that are outside of your purpose, and where their presence should be bringing a sense of peace. Every time you get around them, you feel angst or anxiety or the need to perform. Performance pressure, performance anxiety, the spaces where the pressure from people is making you miss the peace of God. I will say this, I say it to my girls now, like, I want them to marry a man that it's not just for women to be his peace. No. The man that covers you should bring a level of peace into your life as well. It's not just for the women to be his peace. Now, I understand the thought and the terminology, but the truth is, if I'm under you, whatever's on you is going to get on me too. So if you're my covering, I want your life to represent a level of peace as well. It doesn't mean life don't happen, that pressures don't show up, but I need you to carry, to embody a type of kindness and a type of peace that reminds me of the presence of God, so that even when pressure comes, I'm not frustrated by the pressure, because I know together we've got the peace. I will say this until I'm blue in the face. Don't just settle for anybody that calls you a prize but puts more pressure on your life than they do peace. You may be their prize, but they may be your devil in disguise.
Yeah.
I want you to find the individual. I want you, even in your marriage right now, like if your marriage is under pressure, you've got to find your place of peace.
Yeah.
You've got to, together, this is not an individual job. Together, you've got to find the place where the peace of God resides.
Yeah.
You've got to discover, man, at one point, we were really, really good on peace, but now, like, everything is agitating, everything is aggravating. When I see them, I just get anxious. I don't want them to come home from work. I don't even want to have to face them. It's a scripture that talks about it is easier for a man to live on a
a
rooftop than
than
in
being
a house with a contentious wife.
contentious.
That has everything to do with the peace of God. But we both should be providing peace for each other. So right now in your marriage, if your marriage is under pressure or under a pain point, you've got to together find the peace of God. This doesn't happen with you doing it individually. It happens with us coming together and finding the peace of God.
All right, the last one. No, we got one more. So this is number 3. So the first one was purpose over preference. Number 2 was peace over pressure. The third one is character over chemistry. Ooh. I know they give you butterflies. I know they give you goosebumps. I know they give you all that. And they'll do all that and call you out your name. They'll do all that and don't show up for you. As the old folks used to say, you spend more time out of the bed than in it. You better have somebody that has some character about themselves that is saying, I am for one woman or I am for one man. I ain't out here trying to run the streets because, listen, chemistry have got a lot of us messed up. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be attracted and there shouldn't be some type of something, right? Yeah, we should be with somebody that give us butterflies. After all these years, 17, almost 18 years of marriage, he still walk by. I stop and take a peek. I'm not talking about that. But I'm saying when we choose one thing over character, or we overlook bad behavior or character traits because they giving this type of energy, read between the lines, right? And so I'm going to take a chance. And their character cannot uphold them. Let's do this scripture. Proverbs 27:19. A person is revealed by their heart. Let's get to the heart of the matter of how they are and how they treat you. Can they put you above themselves? And that's what, when we go into relationships, there has to be a lot of selflessness. I'm talking about even in platonic relationships. There's sometimes you don't want to do, but that's my friend. We show up for each other. That's what we do, right? But I'm talking about in the form of a blueprint for choosing. If we're only choosing on chemistry and we're bypassing and we're overlooking character, that's an issue. You gonna do the last one, baby?
So the last one, I'll take the last one. At least we'll start. We'll tag it out together.
Yeah.
The last one is, and I think this is probably the most important one of it all, covenant over convenience. And here's how I want to start this last one. These are the changes in the blueprint for what God has called you to in marriage, or in any level of relationship. When you take them on because it's convenient for you, but it doesn't truly represent what covenant is. Convenience in the long term kills. It may not kill you physically, mentally, emotionally. It'll kill your drive. It'll kill your desires. It has the ability to debilitate you. We often settle for what is convenient when we don't want to do the work that is required on the other side of covenant. And here's how I have to say it. Anytime that I stand to marry a man and a woman together, I emphasize the fact that we are not just standing in an altar because you got a pretty dress on and you all have, you look sharp in your tux and you've got your bridal party and you've got your guest. We're standing literally at an altar between God and heaven. And we're about to cut a biblical covenant that in cutting one or creating a covenant, covenants are not always convenient.
Yeah.
Covenants are more about sacrifice than they ever are about convenience. You'll have more days, and I want every married couple in the chat will be able to amen this. Yeah. You will have more days where you have to sacrifice your wants, likes, and desires than you'll ever have days where things are just done and fall easily in your lap. Yeah. Why? Because covenant cost. Convenience is free. Covenant cost. I'm going to say it one more time. Convenience is free. Covenant cost. Let me say it one more time. Convenience is free. Covenant cost. It's sacrificial. Ephesians 5:25, it talks about a love that sacrifices and not just that satisfies. When we are walking in covenant with one another, when in marriage, when Paul is given the blueprint of what marriage looks like, the level of sacrifice that has to come with it in Ephesians 5, he's talking about the same type of sacrifice that Christ made for us on the cross. You are willing to give up yourself for the one that God has called you into covenant with. And I think that one of the greatest misnomers within the context of our society now is that covenant is not revered at the level that it should be. Covenant is considered to be a contract that I can dismiss myself out of whenever I feel like it. But covenant is not the same as a contract. Covenant is a place where I make a promise between the individual that I'm coming into covenant with and between God to say, God, this is what you've trusted me with. This is what I will honor for the rest of my life. When days are well, when days are hell, I choose to honor what it is you've trusted me with. I don't throw it off trifling. Yeah. Right, y'all, here we go. I'm about to go down a rabbit trail. Here it is, y'all. Here, let me give y'all a couple things. When I'm in covenant, here it is. I'm about to hit married couples, about to hit everybody in one fell swoop. When I'm in covenant, I allow my decisions to funnel and flow, not out of my best interests, but out of the best interests of what God has called into my life. So because God has called me to be a covering, because God has put me in a relational covenant, I no longer make decisions that make me feel good. I make decisions that are in the best interest of everybody that's at the table. Why? Because covenant is sacrificial. And often what transpires when we get in covenant and covenant becomes uncomfortable, we try to find ourselves back into the place of convenience, and we find ourselves back in another toxic loop to give ourselves a temporary reprieve from what we would call the pressure or the consequence of covenant. Because anytime your life is operating under a covenant relationship, you're willing to give up what you want, what you desire, what you will, for the betterment of everything and everyone that God has called and created you to. Here's an example. Right now, I would much rather be living in downtown Atlanta in a high-rise overlooking Atlantic Station. One of my guys in the church has a place, a condo that's for sale right now. I have to tell myself every day, LeBryant friend, do not go look at that listing, because though it would be convenient for you, it would compromise your covenant. Everybody that you have been given responsibility over can't fit in the space that's convenient for you. Why? Because when you're in covenant, you no longer choose the easy route. You go the route that God has called and created for you and for those that are a part of the covenant that you are existing in. So hear me, every married couple, every husband, every wife, tonight I want you to re-examine the yes that you gave God. I want you to go back to your family vision board. I want you to go back to why God told you all to start to begin with. And I want you to ask yourself a hard question. Am I honoring the covenant that I cut with God and with my spouse in the proper way? Am I dishonoring it by what I'm looking at? Am I dishonoring it by what I'm talking about? Am I dishonoring it by what I'm allowing in? Am I trying to make life more convenient for me, or am I trying to uphold the covenant God called and created me for? For every single person that may just be trying to do friendship better, that may be looking at, hey, I'm interested and I've got somebody that's interested in creating something with me. We're not in a covenant yet, but I'm telling you, before you cut a covenant, you can see their covenant characteristics. Yes. Do they keep their word? Do they do what they say? Are they on time? Do they properly follow up with promises that they've made? Are they interested in dating you out in public, or do they just want you to be seen in the dark, right?
Woo!
What are the spaces that you have given up out of convenience of not being alone that don't represent the covenant you would want to cut? Everybody don't have to be in your business, but my Lord, at some point, somebody should know that I've got somebody that's at least interested in me. Y'all, I'm trying not to ramble through this, but I want you all to understand that covenant comes at a cost. You're called to covenant, and when God puts you in a space, he puts you in the space for you to grow relationally. The place where your mind has to change is covenant is not convenient. Yeah. It is going to cost me something by being in the level of relationships that God is calling me to.
And this is the thing. If you don't have the right mindset, you are called a counterfeit covenant.
Absolutely.
And how many of you have dealt with the counterfeits?
Yep.
Somebody put in the chat, no more counterfeits. I'm talking about this is even in platonic relationships.
Yep.
Because a lot of times you with the people, with the men, they're saying, hey, all these women out for da-da-da, right? And so let's just go out and get them all. You got women out hollering, we outside. They for the streets. Right? It's not even one-sided anymore. We used to say, oh, no, that wouldn't be named amongst women. But now, it's getting scandalous out there. So let's not deal with the counterfeits, okay? No more counterfeits.
So here's how we sum up tonight. We're bringing it to this second night to a close. We're talking about renewing your mind.
Yeah.
We don't walk away from any night without giving you some level of practical steps. Something that you'll be able, if you put it to work, it'll become easy for you to bring into reality. So number one, practical step number one, I want you to notice the thought. Now, here's what I mean. What do you think about when you think about love and relationships? So like today, for every single person, what have you thought about love and relationships? Like, what have your thoughts been? Yeah. And these are questions only you can answer, right? Because it may not be something that you're talking about externally with people. It may just be an internal mental loop that we're talking about, the way that you think about relationships. Number two, name that pattern. So once I notice the thought, now I've got to name the pattern. So when I think about relationships, I'm thinking, man, I've never been in a healthy relationship, or I've never had someone that desired me. Maybe I'm undesirable. You got to name that pattern. Is that pattern, is it a truth? Is it a trauma? Or is it a current trend? Like the way that I'm thinking, is this truth? Am I really undesirable? Is it trauma? Has something happened in my life that makes me think I'm undesirable? Or is it a trend? Is it a thought that is passing or fleeting? I'll have it for a few weeks, but then a couple weeks later, I'll think I'm the best thing since sliced bread, right? So name the thought, notice the pattern. Then number three, challenge the lie. Yeah. So if you realize the way that you're thinking about relationships is, this can't be true, because everything that God created is beautifully and wonderfully made. So if everything he made was beautiful and wonderful, that means I'm beautiful and I'm wonderful too. So I've got to challenge the lie and ask myself, like we did last night, what does God's word say about this? Yeah. Then when you discover the word of God for it, you've got to speak the truth. Notice the thought, name the pattern, challenge the lie, speak the truth. You have to declare what's real, not what you feel. Yeah. Now, I really want to be sure that we emphasize this as we depart out. More often than not, we're making declarations out of what we feel and not what's real.
Yeah. And our feelings are lie.
Feelings will lie. Yeah. Feelings, scripture says feelings are fleeting. Yeah. Meaning they'll be here for a moment and then they'll disappear and dissipate. They'll go somewhere else, right? So feelings, although they have validity, they don't have the final word. Right? You feel your feelings, but you don't let your feelings dictate what you're about to do next. Yeah. Then 5, the most important part, surrender the outcome. You trust God's direction, his timing, and his leadership for your life. Yeah. In everything that you do, you've got to trust what God is trying to do next in you. All right? So that's tonight's last part of tonight's homework,
Yeah.
I want you to notice the thought pattern.
Yeah.
I want you to name the pattern. I want you to challenge the lie. I want you to speak the truth.
Yeah.
Then I want you to trust God or surrender the outcome to God.
Yeah.
Believe, here it is. If you want to be a husband, God is going to send the right woman that both knows, understands, can see your stuff and not consider your stuff to be baggage, and consider it to be a joy to walk alongside you. If you want to be a wife, I'm believing that God has the right man that's been curated just for you so that you can walk out that part of being a wife in your life.
Yeah.
I believe that God both knows, understands in time and in timing everything that you were born and created for. But above all else, He wants to make sure that you fulfill His call for your life and find yourself, as Fanika said earlier, with the right purpose partner.
Yeah.
Now, if anything that we said tonight, like registered for you, I'm not even saying it was revelation. I'm saying that it registered for you in where you are in life in one way or another. I just want you to drop any emoji in the chat real quick. Now, while you are dropping emojis, there's a couple things I want to be sure that we say tonight as we prepare for the last night of Relationship Revolution, the soul work. Tomorrow night, we're actually dealing with the soul.
Yeah.
So heart, mind, soul. All right? All right. Heart, mind, soul. Tomorrow night, Fanika and I have been in a space where we have been praying through and praying for what God ultimately wants to do next with us as it pertains to walking with people in various stages of their life to help them produce the outcomes that God's created them for. I'm going to talk very transparently. Fanika and I hadn't even, we go over our lesson and we make sure that in every spot, in every space, we have an idea of what we want to cover. We hadn't even talked about this part. For 5 years, I know that we've been in our feelings and we have not fully done what God called and created us for, to create communities and spaces for men and women to fully become everything that God has called them to do relationally. I can't tell you, if I go through Fanika's DMs on IG, how many women are in her DMs saying how much they're gleaning from her as a wife, as a mother, as a woman, and how her life is just a light and example for them. I can't tell you how many men and women in both of our DMs, and they ain't trying to slide in because they see how we do family.
Absolutely.
But those who not just applaud, but are truly trying to glean and grow from what God has given us to do. And for 5 years, we have been in a place of like, hey, I know that God has called us to do pieces like this, but on the other side of that, there's a fear that's attached to it. There's how much necessity does our voice really carry? Do we really have enough to say to make something like this work? And what is it that, ultimately we're called and created to do? I'm coming to you tonight so that you know you're not the only one that's been paralyzed by fear as it pertains to purpose. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, we have been called to create safe places and communities for marriages to heal, for single hearts to be restored, for individuals to see themselves the way that God sees them. And we have fought against it for a plethora of reasons. And even tonight is that reflection of it. Tonight, you all watched us share with you all in a space that for us, as soon as these cameras go off, we're going to be talking about everything we felt like didn't go right, right? Our mistakes, our glitches. And the way that we're both wired, when we do pieces like this, we want it to be perfect. Like the perfectionists in us, we want the lighting to be right. We want the cameras to be right. We want the team to be right. And this is me, because Fanika's been asking, I finally had to get over myself enough to say, we're just going to do it. And whatever it looks like, whoever shows
with our
up,
teenagers, we're going to grab some lights
Yes.
we got, and we're going to turn our cameras on we already had.
we're going to
And we're
take what
yeah.
we have
Yeah.
and we're going to just do it. The big thing is just starting it. Y'all, last night, I promise y'all, my ramble's about to end. Last night before we started, I told the girls and Fanika, I'm so nervous. And I do this I can do this in my sleep. Last night, I
Yeah.
was nervous. I was nervous because I believe that what God has given us to do in the lives of individuals is so sacred.
Yeah.
It carries such a weight and responsibility. And I never want to mishandle the place of purpose and responsibility that we've been entrusted with.
Yeah.
I'm saying all that to say, on the other side of tomorrow night we finish night 3. I'm going to want to get stories and testimonies, and I'm going to ask you all to mail in just for you, to email us the stories and the testimonies from just what these 3 days together did. But on the other side of tomorrow night, we are opening up 2 very distinct communities.
Yeah.
We are opening up a community for singles
Yeah.
and a community for couples.
Yeah.
And I believe that both of these are parts of our call.
Yeah.
That we want to make sure that as we move forward, we are creating space for singles to do life together in community,
Yeah.
for couples to do life together in community, to heal, for God to reveal, for God to create authentic relationships, all born out of healthy communities. So tomorrow night, when we close out, because you all have been a part of this very first opportunity that we are actually doing this, there are going to be a couple things we have on the table. We're going to have a couple of offers that we're going to share with you all to jump into community with us and with those that are following along tonight. And you all, while I've been away and over the course of the last couple months, I've written 2 ebooks. I've got 2 books that have been compiled over the relationship content that we've done over the years. One for singles and one for couples.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, we're opening up everything we've got. We're opening up to you all.
Emptying the clip.
We're emptying the clip. We're going to make sure that we're creating space for you all to become a part of what I believe God is calling us to do. It's the friend circle. Like you all are going to be our circle of friends, both on the single world and in the married life. We're coming together to do this because we believe we are called to do this on several levels.
Yeah.
It's got to start somewhere. It started in our basement, and I believe that y'all are called to be a part of it. And so what we're going to present tomorrow night, I'm just preparing your heart for it, is nothing that we're asking that's going to be astronomical. It's going to be something where we can just make sure that we're able to output this stuff in a great way, in an excellent way, week in and week out, to ensure that as you're growing in your faith and you're growing in your relational capacity, your relational understanding, and becoming everything that God's called you to be, that it all makes sense. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there tonight, that though tomorrow is night 3 at its end, the truth is tomorrow is the beginning. And it's the beginning of something beautiful that I feel like we've been called to do for those that trust our voice and those that we're called to. And I'm backflipping excited about it. I'll be honest, I'm really excited. So I want to be sure I share that with you all tonight. Tomorrow night, I want you to invite your friends. I want you to invite your enemies. I want you to invite your exes. They need it too. Invite everybody that you can. We're going to deal with soul work tomorrow night. And at the end of the night, we're going to invite you all into our communities, and we're going to share what all that looks like. All right? Anything else tonight?
Nope, that's it.
Thank y'all for coming back for night 2. Y'all ain't let us down yet.
Y'all ain't let us down.
If there's 2 people that get on, if there's even right now 120 plus still in, I don't even care about the number. If you're here, we want to be here sharing with you all what God has given us. Thank you for trusting us in this space. We love y'all. I pray y'all have an amazing night. And we'll see y'all tomorrow night for night 3.
Good night.